All right, guys. So let's start off with I already kind of did the market analysis. I actually just did the full market analysis. I haven't done I haven't organized them on which one's best or which one's not. I haven't done my top three or from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But let's start off with last week on AUD JPY. So from what I remember last week on AUD JPY, it's that wick that we waited to happen. And I guess last week was one of those weeks where I decided to not make the wick. But it was very close to making it. And you could have gotten into a trade without it making the wick. Right. So, all right. So this is where we obviously started on the week. And ideally, this is where you wanted the little wick to enter to then get the sell down. Huge bearish engulfing. Then this is where I was expecting a retracement to area of interest 1, if not right back to area of interest 2 to sell. So in this area right here, this is where we understand that we create higher lows and higher highs on the lower time frame. And this is where you have to wait for the shift to sell, right? Type 1 if you all agree, type 2 if not. Perfect. So let's zoom in, right? So this is where we would go down to the lower time frame. So let's say we'll go down to the 30-minute. So as you guys can tell here, this was the push up that we were having. So here we have the push up. This is our first shift of structure right here at area of interest 1. So if you would have taken this trade here, this would have been a temporary loss. But then the next shift of structure came at this area right here, and it was so clean. I was looking at it, but if you look at the date, it's November 30th. That's exactly when I was in the whole process with the movers, and I just wasn't on the computer. But you guys can literally see right here the beautiful shift of structure. We go from creating higher lows, higher highs. We completely break, we engulf everything, have the wick pullback, and then it's just set and forget from that point on. So this is a perfect trade to take last week. Ideally, we would have wanted this to literally just do this. Because if it would have done that, it would have broken above this candlestick, giving us that wick that we're looking for, giving us that wick on the weekly time frame, which didn't happen. Cool, which is even better for us for this week, because now we know there is obviously huge momentum to the downside. Kind of like how I mentioned to you guys 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. This is this is coming down here to these levels big time. So now we have a left head and then a right shoulder. Now we're at the neckline. So we have 2 areas of interest. You guys already know what we're waiting for. Waiting for the pull up into here, the shift of structure, or the pull up to here, the shift of structure to the downside. Pretty simple. Which one do I think it's going to happen first, or which one do I like more? Ideally, for me, the bigger the retracement, the better. But you can't help to understand this is a very well respected level. We have support, 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 support. Not so much here, it's a little bit choppy, so we'll actually bring it in this way. And then we also have this area, which is support, 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 so on and so forth. So it's pretty much just wait till it gets to each of these points. It gets you the shift of structure, and then you take it. This could actually happen, the same exact thing that happened here. Let me see if I could show it clearly to you guys, right? So this is the first trade that we were waiting for. Price to pull up to area of interest 1, have the shift of structure to then sell. So that's what can happen right now. We can have the pull up to area of interest 1, then we have the shift of structure to sell, and then we could be wrong and it goes up to area of interest 2, and then it here has the shift of structure, and then it sells for real, which is basically exactly what happened right here. So we had the shift of structure of area of interest 1, it didn't play out. Then we made it right back to area of interest 2, and then it played out. Does that make sense? Type 1 if yes, type 2 if no. Perfect. So you're literally setting yourself up for wherever it happens. If it happens here, you take it, cool. If you're wrong, you wait for it to come here, and then you pretty much just take it here. So I really like AUD JPY. I think as of right now, it is my #1 for this week. So we'll just delete this alarm. Let me see how I can delete this alarm. Okay, there you go. So we'll delete it for now. Ideally, I would put it somewhere here, but for now, I'm just gonna be watching it. Gold. So gold. Last week, I remember we were waiting for price to have a daily body closure above. After we have a daily body closure above, this is where you would want your wick pullback to then head to the upside. So we had our daily body closure above, and as you can tell, not even a wick pullback at all. Even on the 4-hour, we had a body closure above, whether it was this point or this point. If you notice on the pullbacks, the shift to structure never happened. It just kept going. Same thing here. Once we had the break off, this is where I would wait for a retracement to even this structure level right here. We'd have a little pullback to here, where we would probably wick into the EMA, wick back into 1755, but didn't get a pullback, didn't take a trade, move on to the next one. For this week, we already know that we're obviously still bearish on the weekly until we body close above this. So we're about to body close above it. So let me actually mark that off here. So we got to wait for that weekly to close, but I do want this weekly to give me a retracement to here. Retest weekly EMA, retest weekly structure, support and resistance. And then when you go down to the daily time frame, you're going to retest structure, so on and so forth. We've kind of already done it, but we can definitely do it again. Do you guys hear me good, or is like the mic too far? How do you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. So perfect. Just want to make sure. So yeah, so ideally, you guys already know, in order for us to come back here, the 4-hour has to go bearish, but then that's where you would wait for the shift for the lower time frame, so on and so forth. So this one, it's just like, just kind of looking at it, not really crazy about it, but it does look good. NZD CAD. So I want to talk about a couple things on NZD CAD, right? Because last week, this is a trade that we had set up for a counter trend trade. You guys remember last week what we were waiting for on NZD CAD? Type 1 if yes, type 2 if no. I can go over it really quick. No worries. Okay, so I'll touch it up again. So last week, we had NZD CAD like this. We were at this weekly, we were at a daily higher high. And then when you go out to the weekly time frame, or let's do the replay here on the weekly as well. We were at a weekly area of support. And I'm like, all right, guys, so everything that has a higher high needs to create a higher low to keep going up. So this was seen as the point where we could potentially have the higher low to go to the upside. So this could be a pretty clean counter trend trade. Awesome. So this is where we go to the daily, and then we had a daily bearish engulfing. And this is where I go down to the 1-hour, and you can see the shift. Like you literally see the market shift, how it starts going from higher highs to then now making a lower low. I'm like, all right, cool. So this is where I want to have the retracement to my area of interest. And the retracement, same shit, the shift of structure in order for me to take the trade to the downside. This is where you go down to the 15-minute, and then you're going to see now, I think it was 15-30-minute. We never get a shift of structure. You're just seeing the importance of that little detail. We were waiting for our retracement into here, area of interest. This is where we would wait for the shift. Never got the shift, never took the trade. And then the shift just never happened, whether I was at this area of interest, price just completely get breaking through. So that's the main reason why we don't counter trend trade. And if you do, you need to wait for that shift of structure. Type 1 if that makes sense. Type 2 if not. Perfect. Was it a clear example? Did any of you guys see it and not take it? This, I was this is the number one pair I was looking for last week, just because it was supposed to be the fastest one. Super clear. Was because it was hitting a resistance. Yeah. Well, the reason why it's a counter trend, obviously you're going against a trend. And then 2 reasons why we're willing to take a counter trend is because we're at a higher high, we can potentially have a higher low. And 2, we were hitting a resistance. So we're at a level where we could have the pullback. And that's exactly where we are now again. So if you noticed, we were at a structure point last time, and now we've approached another structure point, right? So now we have a level of support, 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 resistance, support, support, resistance, resistance, support. So now, same thing how I said last week. I believe this can be the area where we have the pullback to the downside. So I'm going to wait for the same exact shit. So again, notice the difference between taking the counter trend trade versus waiting for this to come here and then buying here to the upside. There's a huge difference, but you can capitalize off of both sides, right? So this is where you go down to the daily time frame and you see, again, very strong level of support and resistance. So for me, you guys already know what I'm waiting for. When this breaks this level, higher low, higher high, this is we're going to shift the 4 hour to bearish. And then if you go down to the 1 hour, what a coincidence that you're going to be breaking the 1 hour EMA, retest the 1 hour EMA, around psychological level, right around here, 85,600. I could mark it off just so it looks clear. So it's literally the same exact trade as we're plotting up here. We just got to wait for it to happen. Why do I think it's going to happen now? Because we're at an even higher point, meaning we need an even stronger resistance. Even if we get something as small as even something like this is still a solid move. You put a 20, 30 pip stop loss, you get 200-300 pips. I'm okay with it. But I do think this trade will have a very strong retracement either to here or to here. So yeah, very simple day trade. You guys have any questions on this one? What do you guys think? I know I'm growing as a trader because my setups match yours. Yeah, exactly. So that's fire that you're saying that, Mateo. So something exactly. See, like I love this. So what, like before you guys get onto, yo, this is super trippy. Like seeing a bunch of cars drive by this close, bro. I'm sorry. I'm just like this guy just pulled up in the driver. I don't even know who he is, bro. No, but whatever. So before you guys get on the Zoom calls, do the analysis on your own trades first. Try to find your top 3, your top 4. So that when you get on, you're like, holy shit, it's the same thing. That's basically, you know, the best way to test yourself and see if it matches with everything. And I hope for it to get to one day the point where I'm like, yo, you're doing the Zoom today. And then after you do it, or after Agent does it, after Mateo does it, whoever does it, I'll come in, do a little checkup, or I just say, bro, it's perfect. No, you know, you guys are killing it. Keep doing your thing, you know? So for right now, that's what I have for NZD CAD. GBP, JPY. We have the weekly bearish here. So, okay. So for this week for GJ, so I don't like kind of where GJ is. It's in a very weird position, but I just like marking off GJ because, you know, GJ is a very common pair. We're obviously still bullish on the weekly. The daily is still bearish. You guys remember, oh shit, the daily is still bearish here. We have a lower low, lower high, lower low. Now we're creating potentially that daily higher low to give us that daily higher high. Remember what I said, the weekly needs to have its pullbacks in order to have its pushes to the upside. So that's kind of where we are now. So for me, GJ, it's very interesting spot. In order for me to go long, I would pretty much need the break above this retest to go long, and then the short just get under here and I get a little day trade to the downside. But really, GJ would be like my last one. Not really that interested in it. AUD USD, perfect prime example, which I got a lot of messages that a lot of you guys caught this. Prime example of a perfect trade setup or a perfect day trade. Just doesn't get any simpler. You have your higher low, higher high. You want your daily higher low to have your higher high. Within this higher low, you're going to go temporarily bearish structure. You wait for it to go bullish. On this retracement is you wait for the shift of structure, and then you just set and forget. You guys are seeing how simple it is, right? It's just patience, patience, patience. Let's say you entered this trade right around here. Let's say you had a stop loss either at this point right here. You want to have it under your weekly area of interest. And then since you're buying with daily, you got to set a daily take profit. This would be your take profit. A 1 to 3 in 3 days. I'm all for it. And all you need is one of these a week and you're good. You're making shit ton of money. You literally don't need more than one of these a week. My goal is to get one of these a week. That's all I want. I don't want any more. I mean, 3% times 4, you're literally killing it. You're gonna get a fat payout on any funding company. You're gonna grow your personal account. This is all you need, just one of these a week. That's the goal with all of these pairs. So next we have GBP USD, which is kind of plotting up just how AUD USD did on the daily time frame. Oh shit, what are we looking for AUD USD? So AUD USD, I think I just wanted to show you guys that example. Yeah, because really the trade's basically gone. You can't really get into another trade. The next trade would have been here. Let's say now we have daily higher high. So look, let's see if this trade works out, right? Because I haven't even seen this one. Higher high, you're waiting for a higher low to go long, right? Let's say you missed this trade here, you would get this one. Type 1 if yes, type 2 if not. Okay, perfect. So we know within this pullback, we are going to go bearish on the lower time frame, and we need the shift of structure to take the trade to the upside. So let's go to the 15-minute, 30-minute. Okay, so yeah, in this case, we would have probably not gotten it because we have lower low, and then we don't go bullish until we pretty much broke out already. So this case, it would have not worked out. But if this would have had, let's say, some bearish structure into here, then it would have worked perfectly. It just didn't happen. There was no structure, but the concept is there. So we'll put this into the downside. I don't see anything for this week. GBP USD, on the other hand, notice how we are now bullish on the weekly time frame. So now on GBP USD, we have weekly bullish, daily is bullish. And the 4 hours probably bullish. Yep. All right, so we know that in order for this to keep going to the upside, we need a retracement to go to the upside. So we can either get this little retracement if it makes sense, or just wait for it to go long. So now let's see if we can get a trade to the downside, make it make sense. So I mean, where we are right now, we have some support, resistance. I mean, don't really see nothing clean. I mean, we have 1, 2, pretty much it. Don't really see anything clean. So won't mark up a level. I mean, it's just very simple. When you look for these levels, you either see it or you don't. You get me? Like here, you can clearly see it. Where was the other one? Here, you can clearly see it. Support. Here, we just don't really see it. You don't have to force it. If there's nothing, there's nothing. You just move on. For here, the ideal trade would be a pullback to the upside, but can we find the level here where we have a reason to reject? It's kind of the same zone, but does it look cleaner on the daily? Not really. Doesn't really respect it. I mean, a little bit if you want to count it as like a 5%, but nothing really crazy. So I just put minor structure level. So we're at a point where we can potentially reject to have the pullback to then go long. And then on the 4 hour, we've obviously created a higher high. So in order for you to take this trade short, you would have to break this structure point, have the pullback to sell. But then by that point, you're already at the area of interest where you're looking to buy. So for me, honestly, I'm just waiting for the pullback to buy, which is beautiful. You're going to have a retest of the previous structure point, Brown psychological 2100, go down to the 4 hour. By that time, the 4 hour will be, like stalling around here, pretty much doing exactly what it did here, exactly what it did here and here. So yeah, I just want the pullback to go long. Not interested in the short. Before I would go bearish, the pullback, do we ignore that or do we look for the shift? So yeah, great question. So and of course, in order for this to get here, the 4 hour would go bearish, but you just simply come here and then you just change it from bullish to bearish. And now instead of it being 30%, now it's 20% for your grade. It doesn't really matter. Like all of this, remember again, all you need to take a trade is 2 of these in sync. Obviously, the more the better. But all this does is just you're just knowing the probability of your trade setup. You don't have to. You could wait for it to go bullish, but then by that time it's probably gone, and then you're not buying at an area of interest or so on and so forth. Just waiting for it, it just gives you the I mean, marking up just let you know exactly what you're taking to trade. Like, is it a good trade or is it not a good trade? So for this case, you would just have to wait for the shift of structure at the area of interest, take the trade long. Exactly, yeah. That's literally it. Just very simple. Does this make sense? Type 1 if yes, type 2 if no. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. All right, next we got NZD USD, which I think it's very similar to GU. So we are still technically bearish on the weekly time frame. We have lower low, lower high, lower low. We can now potentially have, a lower low because we're still technically bearish. That's the importance of doing the zone. If this is the lower high and this is the lower low, we're still technically bearish because we're within the box. So still bearish for a fact. Daily time frame is obviously creating a higher high. If you want to, let's just do this. So now we can wait for higher low to go long, or we would have to wait for this to go bearish. Very simple. So we can potentially get both sides, just depends on what it's going to do. So this is the same trade setup as I think GU. Yeah, it's pretty much it's literally the same. You guys see how it looks similar? Like if I flick through it pretty quick, it's almost like the same exact structure, just obviously a little bit different. But you would be waiting for a shift here to get to your area of interest, and you would wait for shift to go to the upside. It's basically the same thing here. You could take the trade short, where then you get the shift here to go to the upside. But this one just looks a lot better because notice how the shift of structure, it's a lot further from the area of interest compared to GBP USD. You guys see the difference? Exactly. There's more room. There's a lot more room to take the short. So we can actually even put this one on top of this one. But as of right now, pretty much just waiting for the same thing as GBP USD. So that's pretty much it. If I were to categorize all of them, I would definitely have this one as my number 1. Obviously, we have the majority of the time frames bearish. And on top of that, we have a huge bearish potential coming very soon. Gold, don't really like gold, so I rather have NZD CAD, NZD USD, GBP USD, and then we can kind of cover these right here. I just wanted to show you those examples. So for this week, we have AJ, NZD CAD, NZD GU, and then gold. For AJ, we're looking for shift of structure sell, shift of structure sell. NZD CAD, we are potentially, again, but like last week, potentially at the point where we're going to have a big time pullback for long. So we just got to figure out how we could get in before it tanks. And then we have NZD USD for pretty much the same thing. They kind of look very similar. Got to figure out how to get in before the sell. So then here, if you get a nice buy to the upside, GBP USD, the ideal thing is to wait for the pullback to the upside. And then gold, if it somehow comes back in here and it looks good, you can then get another buy to the upside.